Hello, welcome to Open Oven. My name is Mike Smith. We have a really cool recipe and an extremely easy recipe to show you today. What we're going to do today is mulligan stew. And the word mulligan, if you're a golfer, you know the word mulligan would mean like a do-over or a freebie, which is kind of ironic because the history of mulligan stew, I guess it's a derivative or sort of like Irish stew, but it kind of goes back into the Depression days when people didn't have a lot of money. They wanted to come up with a meal, a communal meal, something that perhaps all of the people who maybe worked near the railroad or whatever it happened to be, they would have a pot, usually on a fire, and then they called that mulligan stew. And it was basically anything the community had. You brought something, your neighbors brought something, and it all went into the pot, and you would create this stew and you would thicken it up, and then everybody in that community would eat. So we're going to take a look at that. First thing we need to do is you can use any meat in this. We're going to use ground beef. You can use a couple of meats if you like. If you wanted to use beef cubes and chicken, you could do that. And then you, like I said, you could add whatever you want to, whatever you like in stew. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in there because we're going to end up browning this. I want to make sure that oil, again, you want to make sure the oil's hot before you pour that in. We're going to put our ground beef in right away. Nice thing again about our ceramic, look, is our ceramic burner is that it gets hot extremely fast. So there's no waiting around for your stove to heat up. You're pretty much ready in about 20 seconds. And that non-stick pan will be ready to go, no problem. Non-stick pan, so remember we want to avoid metal items. I'm not going to use, for instance, a metal spoon in our non-stick pan. If you scratch that surface, then the non-stick part starts to wear off. You're more chance of rust and the rest of the story. So make sure you're using wood or plastic or some type of nylon spoons, tongs, etc. So I'm going to get that in there. It won't take very long before that starts sizzling. This will be our meat. We need to brown the meat because as you add things into the water or the broth that we're going to end up creating, you want to make sure your meat is cooked. Because you're going to stew it, and you can stew this for as long as you like. Once you have everything, once you have your meat browned and once you have your meat cooked, you can let that broth and the vegetables and the meat stew for as long as you like. Obviously, you keep it on a low temperature, and if you're impatient and you want to speed it up, then you'll just do it at a little higher temperature. But regardless, you want to leave it in stew or soups or anything like that. You want to leave in there for a little while so that you get the taste from all of the things that you put in there absorb into the broth. Just your usual browning of ground beef. Chop that up. I don't want it in tiny pieces, but we want it obviously small enough that it's going to cook. And again, you could use beef cubes, any type of cut of beef that you like. I'm going to get something a little bit flatter. I can get under this beef a bit better. And we'll just let that brown. I'm going to start to cut up some of our vegetables. So we're going to start with potatoes. We don't have to take the skin off these, so we can use these just as you like. You can cut, you could leave them. These are these small potatoes. You could leave them like that if you like. If you want to cut them up, you can do that. I've got some water which we're going to eventually use for our stew once that's finished. It's sizzling nice now. All right, so I like them split, but again, if you like to put them in there whole, by all means. Potato roll off the table. I think there's a song about that, isn't there? Or maybe it was a meatball, but close enough. We've kind of got a pre-measured amount of, again, it depends on what you like to put in your mulligan stew. But the staples would be some type of meat and potato, carrots, celery, things like that. And then after that, if you want to add vegetables, particular vegetables that your family likes, by all means you can do that. That's browning pretty good there now. I like these little potatoes. They're becoming more and more common. For those of you who use them, they're really quick and really easy to make. That's what I like about them. If you want to use regular potatoes and you want to cube them up, the point is you're going to get them to about this size. You could use really any type of white potato. If you like red potatoes, by all means use red potatoes. Whatever you like. All right. All right, let's give this a little bit of a final stir. All right, and when we come after the break, I'm going to show you where we're going to go next. We'll be right back. All right, we're back and we're ready to kind of make our base or our gravy, whatever you want to call it. We're going to use about a half a cup of water. We're going to put that in there because we're going to end up putting our stew seasoning in our pan and we're going to stir that in. That's probably a little hot if it's getting really, really sizzly, so I'm going to turn it down a touch just so we don't make too much of a mess. There we go. And we're going to stir that in. That's going to be the base for our gravy. And you don't want it to get so hot that it starts frying. All right, mix it up well. Your beef is pretty much cooked. It's got that, and it's wet. And we're going to actually put that aside so that it doesn't cook anymore. We want to leave it in that texture. All right, so we've started to add our vegetables. I've got our potatoes on there. But what I'm going to do ahead of time here is we're going to prepare a little bit of garlic toast. For those of you who have watched the show, I like to actually use real garlic. Put that kind of in the butter, heat up the butter a bit, and the butter will absorb the garlic. So just so we have something to add to our stew at the end, we're going to do a little bit. I should be able to heat that right in there. Or we'll heat it in the metal one. There we go. And in our oven, which I'm going to turn on and get that going, it'll take no time at all. And I'll grab where did I put my shredder? There we are. And I'm going to shred some garlic right into there. Often the shredder sometimes doesn't drop it into the butter. You've got to actually grab it from the inside. And you can see, and I'm going to put that right in there. We're going to quickly pop that into our oven. I've just got it on toast. That's going to heat up that butter. All right. Now back to our vegetables. I've got carrots. Again, you could use carrots. You could use celery. If you're courageous, you could use beets, I guess you could put in here. Really any of the vegetables you want. If you're a broccoli person, the problem with broccoli obviously is you start stewing it, it gets really quite soft. You could put that in later. And then later on, one of our last steps is we're going to put some peas in as well. But we're going to put those in fairly late when we're near the end. Again, we don't want the peas, any of your softer ones, any of the peas, things like that, will just get so soft. We want them to have a little bit of firmness. So depending on how you like your carrots, again, if they're similar, you know, if you make them too big, they become difficult to eat. But they don't have to be thin because the potatoes have to cook. So you're going to expect that the carrots are going to have to cook as well. Throw that in there. Here's my peeler. If you've watched the show before, you'll remember I'm not for whatever reason, I struggle with peelers. This one works nice. Yeah, really nice. All right. In there. I think we got time for one more carrot. What's nice about this recipe too is that it's simple and it doesn't. Again, I'm not adding spice to it, but if you wanted to add some chili powder or some chili peppers or even something a little more spicier than that, you could. Traditionally, stews are not overly spicy, but again, depending on your family and what you like. Really easy to add jalapenos or whatever you like to add. All right, that butter's done. I'm just going to shut that off. It's nice and hot now, so we're going to just keep that there for a little bit later. All right, get some more carrots in there. Starting to look like potatoes and carrots. And let's cut up a couple more potatoes. Whoop. Salt shaker, not my pepper. Okay, I always control my salt. I don't like to use too much salt when I'm cooking. I'm only putting some pepper in there, just the water to flavor it a little bit. We're going to end up doing that a little bit later. Okay, we're going to let that boil. When we come back from the break, we're going to finish this up. Again, doing mulligan stew today. All right, we're back, and we've boiled that, and so that the potatoes and the carrots and things have gotten are soft. We're going to take our beef, whatever meat you're using. We're going to actually put this in here. Eventually, this is just going to thicken for us and become a stew. Some of that mix is going to hit some of that water. One of the last very important steps. All right, I'm just going to put this aside for a second. Where did my thing go? Oh, there it is. Give me one. Pick that up. Pot. All right, and we're going to keep that nice and hot. We're going to finish one last thing. We're going to put some onion into this. We're going to caramelize it a little bit. Real hot pan, because we want to add onion to our stew. Add some browning. Get that going. And I'm using the same pan as we cooked the beef in. That's going to obviously have a lot more flavor in it than if we went and started from scratch. Might as well use that pan again, trying to make our meals simple. Quartering the onions. Again, you could do it however you like. Keeping in that you have stew, so you want it to be edible pieces. Somebody having a big, huge chunk of onion in their stew. All right. Keep that on pretty high. Ooh, let's get to the eyes already. Add a tiny bit of water to this, and we're going to add a little bit of flour, and we're going to add a little bit of brown sugar. We're going to try to help this caramelizing process a little bit, and then it should have a nice flavorful onion by the time we're done here. Be careful of the onion odor going into your eyes. I'll start crying here. Again, the key is to have a real hot pan. Get that a little hotter. All right. While that just sizzles a little bit, I'm going to grab that. Remember, we had that butter back here that we let soak in that garlic. Let's give that a little bit of a stir so that that's ready to go when we get ourselves a couple pieces of bread. This will also help to thicken that stew up. Depending on how thick you like the stew too. I don't mind it brothy. I don't mind it almost close to a soup. Either way, if you want to add more thickener, more seasoning, if you want to add some type of gravy or gravy agent or thickening agent, you can do that. Shape. All right. Just another 30 seconds or so. That should go nicely into the stew. Remember, very last thing we're going to put in is peas. All right. Set that aside for a second. Bring back our stew. We're going to put our onions in there. Those are ready to go. We're going to put our peas in. Again, we're going to keep that temperature pretty high. And now starting to look like stew. Again, the idea being mulligan stew. It's a little hodgepodge of everything. I'm going to add some more salt and pepper. I've kept it simple, only using salt and pepper in this. Again, you're welcome to use whatever types of seasoning you want. Let that finish up. I'm going to grab some bread. Garlic butter on there. I'm going to toast that for about 30 seconds or so. And that should be ready to, or finished right away. And that's pretty much it. Very simple to make. Mulligan stew. Very version. I remember growing up, my mother would make similar recipes to this with dumplings. If you want to add dumplings to this, you could easily do that. It's more than watery enough and wet enough that it would absorb that and would look wonderful. Like I said, these ovens are so quick and so fast that we're ready to go. Mulligan stew, enjoy.